Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala khatamil anbiya. Today we are trying to touch on a subject which is no less important and perhaps which is part of our university's missions statement. We are concerned about our students' proper development of personality, and for that, unless they are fully aware of what is the purpose of this country's creation and what was the idea of its founders, then they will be failing in developing their understanding of the country. Unfortunately, the educational system of the country has provided a very small piece of information about Pakistan's creation, and that too from a historical perspective. It does not go into analysis of why Pakistan was created, but tells us how it was created. Therefore, it's very important to understand that what was country's ideology and what was its background. And perhaps some of the information that will come in front of you was not taught to you in your Pak studies courses throughout your career. Before the Pakistan's creation, there were several trends in the society. One trend was represented by Indian Congress, and that had in its leadership persons who were not only of Hindu origin but of Muslim origin. And these persons thought that since Hindus and Muslims have been living in this part of the world called India, and they are born there and they are buried there, their grandparents are buried there, therefore they are essentially Indians, and India constitutes their nationality. Therefore, Congress claimed that it represents people of India, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims or Sikhs or Buddhists, because all of those who are born in that country, in their view, were Indians, and it claimed to be Indian National Congress. Nation for them meant people who were living in that part of the world. And as I said a while ago, among persons who were knowledgeable included Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who wrote a remarkable tafsir known as Tarjuman al-Quran, and Maulana Hussain Ahmad Madani, who was the chief or rector of Darul Uloom Deoband, from where we have the major stream of our own ulama in this country. And then some political leaders like Abdul Ghaffar Khan, known as Bacha Khan, father of Wali Khan, who was also known as Sarhad Gandhi. These were the persons who were leading the movement or the trend that all those who live in India are one single nation. The second stakeholders in that historical context were British themselves. And since British Viceroy or representative of the Queen and functionaries all were trained in Britain, which was based on nationalism of soil. Those who were born in Britain were British, or those who speak English were residents of England. Therefore, these two aspects, language and their geographic origin, was normal phenomena for the British rulers. Consequently, they had an alliance with Congress. In every aspect they supported Congress and wanted them to take over from them when they leave. And that was very much reflected when Independence Day, the people in the celebration raised a slogan that Pandit Mountbatten ki Jai, long live Pandit Mountbatten, because they thought it was because of him that Congress could succeed and get independence from the British rule. This is quoted by Ishaq Qureshi, a very famous historian, in his book on struggle of Pakistan. A third trend and stakeholders were those who were bureaucrats, civil servants, lawyers, advocates, who were trying to run the civil administration. These persons were produced in that environment where British were considered as the dominant power which will never decline. Therefore, a claim was made that in the British domain, sun never sets. They claim that from Australia till Canada, they have their rule, and sun is always visible on the skies under their domain. Bureaucrats were trained either by Aligarh University or by secular universities in the country, and there was no difference at all in their training because they were using same syllabi as we use today. We claim that public sector education is low quality, and private sector, because they add to it Oxford and Cambridge textbooks, is much superior, but both have one and same origin of Cambridge and Oxford. What's the difference? The difference is public sector is using old textbooks of same universities, and private sector using new textbooks, new prints. But there is no difference at all. Therefore, bureaucrats who were trained and who was told that nationalism or nationality means when you are born and raised in a country, for them the idea of any Islamic country was very strange. What they understood was that we will have a country in which Muslims will be ruling instead of Hindus, and Muslims will rule in the same way as they were ruled by the British. A fourth sector or section of community was those ulama who, due to their sectarian approach, could not understand or explain what is a modern Islamic state. Forgive me for this biased statement, but the fact of the matter is that our religious Dini Madaris are not Madaris of Islam, they are Madaris of Masalik. Therefore, you have a conglomerate known as Tanzimul Madaris, Wifaqul Madaris, then a Wifaq of Ahl Hadith Madaris, a Wifaq of Fiqh Jafri Madaris, and these Wifaq or bodies control Madaris with the name given to them. This is Madrasa of Barelvi school, this of Deobandi school, this is Ahl Hadith, this is Shia. These are four major groups in our own country which claim to give Dini Taaleem, while their names of schools and their curricula indicates very clearly that these are sectarian schools and not Dini Madaris. Same has been the situation for past so many years, and for them it was more important to have one of their graduate become imam or teacher in a school of their maslak. It was not their concern what is going to take place in the country. So these were the at the same time there were a fifth section of society who, before Pakistan was created, supported Pakistan movement, and when Pakistan was created they came forward with a demand that Pakistan should have Islamic constitution. These were the ulama who were led by Sayyid Sulaiman Nadwi, by Maulana Shabir Ahmad Usmani, by different representatives of Dini schools of thought. Among them were mainly these persons: Mufti Muhammad Shafi, Maulana Mufti Jafar Hussain Mujtahid from the Shia school of thought, Maulana Zafar Ahmad Ansari, Mufti Kifayat Hussain Mujtahid, again a Shia scholar, Pir Sahab Amir Hasanat, this from the Bhera Sharif, Maulana Yusuf bin Nori, Maulana Ihtishamul Haq Thanvi, and Maulana Abdul Badayuni representing the Barelvi school of thought. This is just a few. There were over 22 scholars who came in forefront, and they came up with a unanimous document in January 1951, where they said that the country should have declared very clearly that ultimate sovereignty belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that state shall function on principles of shura and not to be autocratic, dictatorial or secular. Human rights of all citizens to be protected. The new law of land should be based on the Quran and Sunnah, with independence of judiciary, non-Muslim to be treated equally as citizens of Pakistan. Head of state shall always be a Muslim in whose piety, learning and soundness of judgment people have confidence. These were the major points out of their 32 points they came up and signed together, and that also indicates the myth that ulama cannot join on something in the country. It's a document, but I'm sure it has never been brought to notice in any textbook on Pakistan studies. Consequently, the constitution which was approved in 1956 but never functioned, and then 1970 and then 73 includes following clauses: steps shall be taken to enable the Muslims of Pakistan individually and collectively to order their lives in accordance with the fundamental principles and basic concepts of Islam, and to provide facilities whereby they may be enabled to understand the meaning of life according to the Holy Quran and Sunnah. Second, the state shall endeavor as respect to Muslims of Pakistan to make the teachings of the Holy Quran and Islamiyat compulsory, to encourage the facilitate the learning of Arabic language, and to secure correct and exact printing of the Holy Quran, to promote unity and observance of Islamic moral standards, to secure proper organization of zakat, ushur, waqf and mosque, etc. These are words of your constitution. It's not a matter of some ulama who have been talking about let's have Islamic state, but the constitution says it has to be an Islamic state. The name of the country is declared as Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Having said that, you find in the newspapers, in anchor persons, in discussions in our country, always a question raised: what should be Pakistan's constitution? The matter has been so transparently clear that even some non-Muslims who have written on this region and who are considered as authority, even they understand why Pakistan was created. A very well-known Canadian scholar who established in McGill University Institute of Islamic Studies, he was its director, he writes in his book, in the Pakistan case, the whole raison d'etre of the state was Islam. It was Islam that first brought it into being and continued to give it meaning. The purpose of setting up the state was to enable Muslims here to take up once again the task of implementing their faith into the political realm. Pakistan came into being as already an Islamic state, not because its form was ideal, but because insofar as its dynamic was idealist. To set up an Islamic state then was the beginning and not the end of adventure. To achieve Islamic state was to attain not a form but a process. This is what he wrote in his book Islam in Modern History. What was the view of founders of Pakistan? Among those, in the 1930 address of Allama Iqbal, where he gave it as a presidential address of Muslim League conference, he said, Islam does not bifurcate the unity of man into an irreconcilable duality of spirit and matter. In Islam, God and universe is spirit and matter, church and state are organic to each other. Man is not a citizen of a profane world to be renounced in the interest of a world of a spirit situated elsewhere. To Islam, matter is spirit realizing itself in space and time, which means Islam has no separation between state and religion. In Islam, they are both one and same because both represents philosophically concept of Tawheed. Among persons who provided Qaid-e-Azam guidance was a scholar whose name was Muhammad Asad, and I can with confidence say that perhaps none of you have heard this name before, because in Pakistan studies you never find such names mentioned. He was essentially an Austrian Jew who became Muslim and became Pakistani, and he proved by his presence the concept of Pakistan, that you may not be born in a country but you are citizen of that country. Therefore, an Austrian became Pakistani and represented Pakistan as first ambassador in United Nations, but no history mentions his name. When I asked same question to some very senior persons in a course in NDU, which is meant for promotion of joint secretaries to secretaries, then those who came from foreign office in that course in NDU could not tell me who was their first rep in the United Nations. And when I told them it was an Austrian Muslim who became Pakistani and represented our country, they were surprised. So, Asad in 1947, before Pakistan's creation, writes, the title of his paper was, What do we mean by Pakistan? And you will find many of his words are quoted by Qaid-e-Azam in his speeches. If the meaning of our struggle for Pakistan is truly to be found in the word La ilaha illallah, even a very senior person who was Minister of Education at one point said that this concept of Pakistan made for La ilaha illallah was Ziaul Haq's invention. So people have been confused about basic issues. This is in 1947, Asad is saying that this claim that we want a country where there be no God except Allah is something historical reality. Our present behavior must be testimony of our coming nearer and nearer to this ideal, that is of becoming better Muslims only in our words but in our actions as well. It should be our leaders' duty to tell their followers that they must become better Muslims today in order to be worthy of Pakistan tomorrow, instead of which they merely assure us that we shall become better Muslims as soon as Pakistan is created. This was the Muslim League position, that we will become good Muslims after Pakistan is created, while Asad was saying become good Muslims now so you can take up Pakistan in proper way. Similarly, in other statements, Asad says, in short, it is the foremost duty of our political leaders to impress upon the masses that the objective of Pakistan is establishment of truly Islamic polity, and that this objective can never be attained unless every fighter for Pakistan, man or woman, great or small, honestly tries to come closer to Islam at every hour and every minute of his or her life. That in words only, a good Muslim can be a good Pakistani. As I have already said, the Muslim masses instinctively realize the Islamic purpose of Pakistan and genuinely desire a state of affairs in which La ilaha illallah would become the starting point of the country's development. So here you find a person of foreign origin but who was part of Pakistan movement, very clearly providing us documentary proof that what was the idea of the founders. Now let's see what was the view of Quaid-e-Azam. And for that you will find that 99.9% of your intellectuals in the country who write in newspapers, in journals, have been always saying that Quaid-e-Azam was a secular person and wanted a secular Pakistan. And none of your textbooks writers ever try to go back to history and find documents to support that claim. They only repeat what their teachers have told them, that Quaid-e-Azam wanted a secular Pakistan. Let's try to hear from the person directly. And I am very sad to say that these writings have been available, but no effort was made in 70 years to project them and convey those to our coming generation. My main purpose in this morning discussion is that you as conveyors of truth should be convinced yourselves first and then take that to your students. If you are told from your childhood that Quaid-e-Azam wanted secular Pakistan, then the only reason you will support concept of Islamic State will be some ulama are saying let's have Islamic State, and that's not the truth. It was not just the ulama but the founders who had very clear vision about the country. It's extremely difficult to appreciate why our Hindu friends fail to understand the real nature of Islam and Hinduism. They are not religion in the strict sense of the word, but are in fact different and distinct social orders, and it is a dream that Hindu and Muslim can ever evolve a common nationality. And this misconception of one Indian nation has gone far beyond the limits and is the cause of most of your trouble and will lead India to destruction if we fail to revise our nation in time. The Hindus and Muslims belong to two different religious philosophies, social customs and literature. They neither intermarry nor interdine together, and indeed they belong to two different civilizations which are based mainly on conflicting ideas and conceptions. Unfortunately, what Quaid-e-Azam is saying here is happening in India today. You have intermarriage in India because they are told you are one and same people, and that is evidenced by figures available in statistics. Their aspects of life and of life are different. It's quite clear that Hindu and Muslims derive their inspiration from different sources of history. They have different epics, different heroes and different episodes. Very often the hero of one is a foe on the other, and likewise their victories and defeats overlap. To yoke together two such nations under a single state, and one numerical minority and the other a majority, must lead to growing discontent and final destruction of any fabric that may be so built up of the government of such a state. Then in 1943, much before Pakistan's creation, it is a great book, Quran, that is the sheet anchor of Muslim India. I am sure that as we go on and on, there will be more and more of oneness one God, one book, one Qibla, one Prophet and one nation. Very clearly telling us that what should be the basis of the nation. Then again addressing a hostile parliament in 1943 in Bombay, I have often made it clear, if Muslims wish to live as honorable and respectable people, there is only one course open to them: fight for Pakistan, live for Pakistan, if necessary, die for achieving of Pakistan, or else Muslims and Islam are doomed. There is only one course open to us: to organize our nation, and it is by our own dint of arduous and sustained and determined efforts that we create strength and support our people, not only to achieve our freedom and independence, but to be able to maintain it and live according to Islamic ideals and principles. The modern democratic form of government is not suitable to the genus of the Indian people. We want a true democracy according to Islam and not parliamentary government of the Western Congress type. Very clearly what kind of state should be created. Again, addressing the parliament in Bombay, in Pakistan we shall have a state which will be run according to the principles of Islam. It will have its cultural, political, economic structure based on principles of Islam. The non-Muslims will need not fear because of this, for fullest justice will be done to them. They will have their full cultural, religious, political, economic rights safeguarded. As a matter of fact, they will be more safeguarded than in the present day so-called democratic parliamentary form of government. See, there is a continuity and same thought in the statements of Quaid-e-Azam from 1943 till he passed away. And he was not a person who will be influenced by a group of ulama or a group of intellectuals. As a lawyer, as a person who studied Islamic law, who fought up to Privy Council cases of Islamic nature based on his study of Islamic law, a person who was known for his truth and honesty cannot mislead people by saying in a statement that we will have Islamic state and then later on saying, don't worry, Pakistan is made now, let's have it secular. Therefore, if you study historically his ideas, there is a same continuation, no contradiction. 945, sending a message to Frontier Muslim Students Association. Pakistan not only means an independent freedom and independence, but the Muslim ideology which has to be preserved, what has come to us as a precious gift and treasure, and which we hope others will share with us. Again using the word Muslim ideology. Then what is the basis of this whole mythology that Quaid-e-Azam wanted secular Pakistan? There is only one statement of 11th August, and I would like you to read it carefully. But before you read that, let's see what Javed Iqbal tells us about this statement. Javed Iqbal in his book says, Islamic ideology recognizes a distinction between meaning of words mazhab and deen. Mazhab means personal faith, viewpoint or path, whereas deen means a body of those universal principles of Islam which are applicable to entire humanity. Therefore, in this sense, Pakistan does not have any specific mazhab, religion, because it is not a state based on sectarianism. It is not a Shiite state, not a Sunni state, not a Brelvi, not Deobandi, not Ahl Hadith. Therefore, it must be said that we will have no mazhab, because it is neither founded on nor project the personal viewpoint of any particular Muslim sect. This very important aspect of state of Pakistan was clarified by Quaid-e-Azam in his famous presidential address to the Constituent Assembly on August 11. This is the background he is trying to clarify, but let's see what he said. What he said was, you are free to go to your temple, you are free to go to your mosque or to any other place of worship in the state of Pakistan. You may belong to any religion or caste or creed. That has nothing to do with the business of the state. As you know, history shows that in England, conditions some time ago were much worse than those prevailing in India today. The Roman Catholics and Protestants persecuted each other. From now, there are some states in existence where these discriminations made and bars imposed against a particular class. What happened? The people of England in course of time had to face the realities of the situation and had to discharge the responsibilities and burden placed upon them by the government of their country, and they went through that fire step by step. Today you might say with justice, Roman Catholics and Protestants do not exist. What exists now, they all are members of the nation. Now I think we should keep that in front of us, our ideal, and you will find that in course of time Hindus will cease to be Hindus, Muslims will cease to be Muslims, not in the religious sense but because there is personal faith of each individual, but in political sense as citizens of the state. What he is saying is very clear, that this sectarian approach is not going to be observed, and Pakistan will become like England, where Catholics, Protestants were killing each other as Hindus and Muslims were killing each other. They learn to live under a rule of law in England, and we will learn the same way, in which Muslims, Hindus will be just citizens. He is not saying anywhere or using the word secular for Pakistan. This statement is interpreted, and sometimes some parliamentarians have said that we should make that part of constitution. Even if they make it part of constitution, it makes no difference, because constitution has defined itself to be Islamic state. So this is the main issue which has been raised again and again. Now 3 days later, the Quaid addresses Constituent Assembly as its president, and in that Lord Mountbatten makes a comment that we hope you will keep in your view the example of Emperor Akbar, who was known for treating Hindus very cordially. So Quaid-e-Azam, and this is the statement he made, which was not written but oral, later on written down. He said, the tolerance and goodwill that Emperor Akbar showed to all the non-Muslims is not of recent origin. It dates back 13 centuries ago, when our Prophet, not only by words but by deeds, treated the Jews and Christians after he had conquered them with the utmost tolerance and regard and respect for their faith and belief. Which means that Akbar is not our example. Our example will be the Prophet. Akbar did not do it for the first time, but it has been done by us throughout our history, and therefore he said that we will be following, which again indicates his mindset. A secular person, when he hears Mountbatten saying that we hope you will follow Akbar, should say, yes sir, we will follow him. But a person who is not secular responds by saying, why should you follow Akbar? We follow our Prophet. So Javed Iqbal concludes from that, but I will leave his statement and I will go back to directly the statements of Quaid-e-Azam. Now that was 11th August 47 statement. Now you hear his statement, 11th October 47, just 1 month after that. The recipient of Pakistan, for which we have been striving for the last 10 years, is by the grace of God an established fact today. But the creation of a state of our own was means to an end, not the end in itself. The idea was that we should have a state in which we could live and breathe as free men, and in which we could develop according to our own lights and culture, and where principles of Islamic social justice could find free play. The words are selected very carefully by him, and by the way, he was never an emotional speaker. He always read his speech from written document. Throughout his life, he was not an extempore speaker. Then addressing October 30th, 1947, again just few weeks after that so-called 11th of August statement, he addresses the youth in University Stadium, Lahore, and says, do not be overwhelmed by the enormity of the task. There is many an example in history of young nations building themselves up by sheer determination and force of character. You are made of sterling material and are second to none. Why should you also not succeed like many others, like your own forefathers? You have only to develop the spirit of the mujahids. You are a nation whose history is replete with people of wonderful gifts, character and heroism. Live up to your tradition and add to it another chapter of glory. All I require of you now is that every one of us of whom this message reaches must vow to himself and be prepared to sacrifice his all, if necessary, in building up Pakistan as a bulwark of Islam and as one of the greatest nations whose ideal is peace within and peace without. Which means that he wanted to build Pakistan as a fortress of Islam. And that's what he is demanding from youth. Again, you will find this statement never taught in your textbooks. You are told he wanted a secular Pakistan. February 14, 1948, addressing at Sibbi Darbar. It's my belief that our salvation lies in following the golden rules of conduct set for us by our great lawgiver, the Prophet Islam. Let us lay the foundations of our democracy on the basis of truly Islamic ideals and principles. Our Almighty has taught us that our decisions in the affairs of the state shall be guided by discussion and consultation. He quotes from the Quran and says you want Islamic ideals. How can a secular person make this statement? Addressing the US people on radio, this dominion, which represents the fulfillment in certain measures of a cherished dream of 100 million Muslims of the subcontinent, came into existence on August 15, 1947. Pakistan is the premier Islamic state and the fifth largest in the world. We gave Pakistan Islamic Republic in 1970 and 1973 and in 1956 Constitution. But he has given this title to Pakistan in his own address in 1948, and that shows the gap between him and his team. His team had different views. A very interesting phenomena. Many of you will be wondering, what is the name of your country? People ask you, who are you? I am Pakistani. Your name was proposed by two young students of Cambridge. One was Chaudhry Ahmed Ali, the other was Abdul Rahim. Both are studying there. And what they did was they took P for Punjab, A from Afghanistan and NWFP, K for Kashmir, STAN for Balochistan and Sindh. So the name was PAKSTAN. This was the name proposed, and I have the document in front of you. On January 28, 1933, Rahmat Ali wrote this letter with the pamphlet, Now or Never. I am enclosing herewith an appeal on behalf of the 30 million Muslims of Pakistan who live in the 5 northern units of India, Punjab, NWFE, Afghan province, Kashmir, Sindh and Balochistan, embodying their inexorable demand for the recognition of their separate nation states. And so this is the name he proposes, and this is followed by a small pamphlet by him. Now, the day after March 23rd resolution, which you have been told many times, you were asked to memorize that. 1940 resolution was made. Next day on March 24, 1940, Khwaja Abdul Rahim, one of those who in Cambridge proposed the name of country, invited Qaid-e-Azam at his residence in Lahore. The Qaid told him, Rahim, the name you gave in 1930 is highly talked about in Hindu press. Khwaja Rahim asked the Qaid, then what should be the name in your view? Allama Iqbal in those days had endorsed it. The Qaid said, if you people and the Muslim nation like this name, I have no objection, except in the name you have on the pamphlet park, add I, which stands for Islam, and is the link between these provinces. I have shown this statement to people who are more senior to my age and who are representing Pakistan ideology in conferences. And I asked them, sir, did you ever hear this statement? And they said no, because they were never told by any writer. The very name carries Islam in it. What to say of constitution? And by whom? It was not a demand of ulama that they came and said, sir, please add Islam in the name. It was the Qaid who takes initiative and tells the proposers of the name that modify your name and put I there to make it cohesive. The country can only remain cohesive so long Islam is in the name. This is a statement which has been even embossed outside this Malir Kent regiment garrison, but no one ever reads that. You have fought many a battle on the far-flung fields of the globe. He is addressing the armed forces to get rid the world of fascist menace and make it safe for democracy. Now you have to stand guard over the development and maintenance of Islamic democracy, Islamic social justice and the equality of mankind in your own native soil. He is not leaving any section of society. Addressing youth in a stadium, make it a fortress of Islam. Addressing the army, that you should take care of this country. Addressing the people who were created to make economic policy of the country. When a state, this is the Bar Association, lawyers. He addressed lawyers, Bar Council in Karachi, January 25th, 48. No doubt there are many people who do not quite appreciate when we talk of Islam. Islam is not only a set of rituals, traditions and spiritual doctrines. Islam is also a code for every Muslim which regulates his life and his conduct, even in politics and economics and the like. It is based on the highest principles of honor, integrity, fair play and justice for all. He further said that he could not understand a section of people who deliberately wanted to create mischief and made propaganda that Constitution of Pakistan would not be made on the basis of Shariat. The Qaid said Islamic principles today are as applicable as they were 300 years ago. Again, very clearly mentioning that the base will be Shariat and the Constitution will reflect that. In the broadcast to the USA, February 48, the Constitution of Pakistan has yet to be framed by the people, by the Pakistan Constituent Assembly. I do not know what the ultimate shape of constitution is going to be, but I am sure it will be of democratic type, embodying essential principles of Islam. Today they are as applicable in actual life as they were. He is repeating again and again that Islam is not something past, but it's relevant and we are going to apply it. But no one ever tries to look into his own statements. He also mentions, in any case, Pakistan is not going to be a theocratic state. Theocracy means ruled by religious clerics, not Islam, but sectarian. And therefore, he said very clearly. Then addressing the people who were supposed to make economic policy, State Bank inauguration ceremony, he says, I shall watch with keenness the work your research organization is involving banking practices compatible with the Islamic ideals and of social and economic life. The economic system of the West has created almost insolvable problems for humanity, and to many of us it appears that only a miracle can save it from disaster that is now facing the world. And you know that in 2008 you had the great collapse of capitalism all over the world, and mergers of banks in America and Europe and elsewhere. So he addresses state bank people and says that we must work our destiny our own way and prove to the world an economic system based on true Islamic concept of equality of mankind and social justice. We will thereby be fulfilling our mission as Muslims and giving to humanity the message of peace, which alone can save it and secure the welfare. That means we export Islamic system to the world and tell them how they can be saved from this collapse of capitalism. Going back to 45, what is that keeps the Muslims united and what is bedrock and seat anchor of community? It is Islam. Everyone except those who are ignorant know that Quran is the general code of Muslims, a religious, social, civil, commercial code. Again, same words are used in the statement, which shows the stream of thought is conformity of ideas. Then a very strong statement going back to 1939, addressing the Muslim, the All India Muslim League conference, which speaks for his belief. I have seen enough of the world and possess a lot of wealth. I have enjoyed all comforts of life. Now my only desire is to see the Muslim flourish and prosper as an independent community. I want to leave this world with a clean conscience and content with the feeling that Jinnah had not betrayed the cause of Islam and the Muslims. I do not want your praise nor any certificate. I only want that my heart, my conscience and my faith should prove at the time of my death that Jinnah died defending Islam and cause of Muslims. May my God testify that Jinnah lived and died a Muslim, fighting against the forces of kuffar and holding the flag of Islam high. Who can make this statement? A secular person who wanted Pakistan to be secular? But you keep on hearing again and again for 70 years, every intellectual of the country has one slogan: Pakistan was conceived as a secular state. We also find a statement of a Muslim League leader and worker, Maulana Hasrat Mohani. In 1945, Maulana Hasrat Mohani went to see the Qaid at his Delhi residence. He was told that he does not like to meet people at this evening hour. It was time for Maghrib prayer. The Maulana prayed in the lawn and then started walking in the corridor. He heard some whispers and thought the Qaid was talking with someone. He tried to peep into his room. What he saw was, reported by him, the Qaid was sitting on the prayer rug and was praying to Allah for the success of the Muslims with tears and sobs. This is a personal statement of someone who was a very well known leader of the Muslim League. So if you look into all these statements, it becomes an undeniable fact that Qaid-e-Azam, Allama Iqbal and Muhammad Asad, they represent one and same stream of thought. They represent one single ideology, that Pakistan was made in order to establish an Islamic system here. And unfortunately, if you recall, we talked in the beginning about stakeholders. Among those were people who were concerned about sectarianism among the ulama, so there is no seriousness. Similarly, you had bureaucrats who were trained in a system where there was no concept of any religious role in state. British trained bureaucrats could not conceive a state where Islam could play a role. For them, ideal was British democracy, nothing else. And perhaps for some of you it might be a news that till 1964, more than 60 bureaucrats of our country were of British origin, carrying high positions of secretaries, joint secretaries, directors of institutions. And if you want to contest it, go and visit institutions, and you will find that the name of first director of the institute of training in army, in bureaucracy, all over the country will be that bureaucrat. If over 60 serving bureaucrats are there, can one person bring a revolution? That's why our tragedy has been that these bureaucrats who had no idea about Islamic State, these sectarian ulama who were concerned about their sect only, and intellectuals who were trained by the education system in which concept of nation was essentially based on soil. Why do you have today in the country Balochistan having a so-called national liberation force? Why you had for so many years the so-called Afghan and KPK together as one state, calling that it is Pakhtun state? So the Pakhtun of Afghanistan and the Pakhtun of KPK should join together. Why? This was essentially the doctrine of Abdul Ghaffar Khan, which was not withdrawn even after he died. He is considered a hero by children of KPK because of the education system. The hero never wanted to be buried in Pakistan. When hero passed away, his will was to be buried in Kabul, not in Pakistan, and his body was taken there. This is the history. With this history, can you ever get a clear view of what Pakistan should be? Therefore, I thought that perhaps you young people who are going to disseminate knowledge to coming generations, you should be very clear about your country's ideology, and it's not a matter of some ulama who want to rule the country, because Qaid-e-Azam has said very clearly, and same was said by Allama Iqbal and by Maulana Maududi, that Pakistan cannot be a theocratic state. All three have said it publicly, and they are public documents. That means a state based on Islam does not mean it will be run by Deobandi, Barelvi, Ahl Hadith or Shia ulama, but it means it will be run by the Quran and Sunnah. So this is very briefly a rundown on this important topic.